So this team Re.Craft, we started. We started from the very beginning, thinking 9 months ago of what is relevant right now in architecture, and what are most of the people doing in architecture these days, and what are people thinking of. So we directly thought of these new fabrication techniques like the robotic arm, 3D printer, obviously, laser cutter, stuff like that, because we use them a lot to make models and think about things, to renew things, renew structures, and all things like that. But we first of all, we didn't think of the word craft, because we more saw it as a, how do you say it, as an experiment. But we started thinking, what if this experiment was going to be the new craft?
For the first time, I think, ever in the history of the design professions, we are the technical avant-garde. We never were. Architects were always late in embracing technological change. From the Greek till 10 years ago, when a new technology changed, architects typically say, oh, no, we don't like it. And then 1 century later said, well, perhaps we can do something with it. Modernism, for example, is a history of architects coming to terms with the Industrial Revolution 1 century late. True, when we moved on, we made a good job, but we were still 1 century late. With the digital, we are the groundbreaker. I think we, in the design professions, have captured, interpreted, and in a sense given life to the new digital tools better than any other profession has.
But I think that digital manufacturing technologies will shape architecture in two ways fundamentally. One is that obviously with digital manufacturing technologies, certain forms or shapes become available and can be realized that cannot be realized with other more traditional manufacturing technologies. So that's one thing, that there are new types of forms and shapes that become accessible to architects to be used in buildings and in creating spaces.
Well, I think that at the moment, digital manufacturing is something which is organized by professional people like architects and engineers. But of course, the really interesting issue is how that will scale to society, so that rather than there being standard products or even superficial customization of products that we have at the moment. Oh, you can buy your trainer. Oh, you can choose the color. Oh, you can choose the logo on the side. These are very much superficial customizations. In the future, I think that people will be able to design and build their own products completely unique to their needs.
The scope of architectural practice will be completely changed and is already changed. I mean, we have this 3D reproduction methods and the BIM, the whole way of drawing is going to be different. And there's no doubt that also the architectural appearance will completely change. Yeah. There's no problem in that, but my question is, will it still be part of the human, or will it be too distant, like stars, you know?
For me, at least, the question is philosophical. It's really do we believe in what technology can bring to us as human? Do we believe that this is something positive or negative? And it goes back to a kind of century-old debate about, which was already, let's say, treated, analyzed by philosophers like Rousseau, who was discussing about the advantages and drawbacks of techniques,
The opportunity to do something in such a different way than I was expected. Like, especially the lectures taught me a lot in a way that so much is possible right now, and so much faster production, so much individually, and in that sense, I don't know, it's just crazy. You can do so many things, which I quite enjoy. I'm not at that level that I'm designing these, but it's a good way for me. Good goal.
Forms that we made, you didn't think of them, like you didn't have the shape and the design in your head. You've created a process, and all of a sudden this process, the design in a form, is the outcome of the process. So in a way, the design is unexpected, but it's informed by sort of very logical things like access to views or circulation paths. So it's not something that you necessarily thought of, but you discovered it.
This wall and interior separator, which can actually function as outside furniture. And by being able to automatically, or quite fast, being able to 3D print it, we could figure out a lot of different things. And from that, we started a second iteration, trying to use less materials. And now we're actually building a one-to-one model to see if it works.
I think digital fabrication in itself isn't really a discipline. You know, it's a set of tools that are activated in a way that we didn't activate tools before. But the things we're asking them to do go back hundreds of years in terms of their origins of thought and skill. So they can go as far as we want, really. I think it's up to us.
There's robots are used in industry in quite a lot and vast application scenarios. It's actually a product coming from industry. It's an off-the-shelf product that we are transferring into the architectural realm. It's not something we are inventing by no means. Compared to other CNC machinery, a robot is actually quite a cheap equipment. We are just coming up with novel ways how that could be employed, building elements or whole buildings. And the interesting thing is how this reuse of the robot within the architectural realm could then back inform the building industry. That sometimes can be a slow process. We have to see how far that is picked up. But that's why it's such a demonstrator is always important. Yeah? You need to highlight the potential that's actually there, and only then people might think about, oh, that's a really interesting solution we might tap into as well.
Within the really soon, with all the sensors in the robotic engines and stuff, it will actually be able to react. So a robot will really become a robot, because a robotic arm is actually just is a more machine than a robot. You know, and in the future we will have actual robots that can kind of think and kind of react and behave towards what's happening in their surrounding. And I think that's a good thing, because now we're only focusing on the manufacturing. But I think we should keep our mind open, and actually we should start from now on to think about what robotics actually. Artificial intelligence can do for our the built environment.
I think what's interesting and what should be our challenge is to use the technology which we are surrounded with in everyday life, and really try to use it in a creative way and to produce something which wouldn't be possible otherwise, and really explore all the potential we have. And that potential, of course, the great potential of all the digital tools we have by now is that sometimes we might not really understand the result right away. We don't have to, we can let loose the idea that we have to know what the result will be. We can rather design a process and then be very free to sort of guide the process and and intervene in the process and achieve something which is maybe different from what we had in mind in the beginning. But that is another thing that could ultimately lead to a new idea of beauty, where probably process and the product or the object as a result of the process cannot be thought of independently anymore.
I think beauty is it changes all the time. So, but I do think you can't not think about digital fabrication and do something that's beautiful. You couldn't, well, no, you couldn't do a classic. Like if a classic is the thing that captures the spirit of the moment, like a 1960s classic car, you know, you can't do a classic unless you engage digital fabrication. You know, if you don't, you're not part of this time. So.